Welcome to my channel. I am going to do a dropper post on my OTSO Voytek. Before I do, I'm just going to show you a couple of things. Of course, Bjorn is down here joining me for the fun. So I already removed the seat. So that's the first step, is a regular seat post and seat. And then you're ready to start the install. What makes this frame a little different is it's got kind of a combo of internal cable routing and external cable routing. Most dropper posts, and I can show you on my other bikes, go through the down tube internally. So on the transition bottle rocket, it comes through here, the dropper post cable, and then it feeds down here and then bends up into here. And it makes it a bit more challenging to install, feeding the cable through. That's generally the most complicated part of installing a dropper post. My Norco fluid does a similar thing, right? But on this one, they have the cables going externally. And so the brake cable goes externally, and then the dropper post will come right alongside here. There's an extra space for it, and that'll come through, and then it feeds right into here. So that's going to make this a much easier install, because all I have to do is feed the cable through here, bring it along here, hook it up, figure out how I'm going to route it and stuff, and it's good to go. Everybody's got mixed feelings about this. A lot of people like the cleaner look of having all the cables go internally, but when it comes to working on stuff, it's much more of a pain in the butt when cable routing goes internally, especially when it comes to hydraulic brakes. So I actually prefer external cable routing, and I'm kind of glad that OTSO did this. Even though this is a carbon frame, I don't mind the little bit of extra clutter, because for me, bikes are about function, not necessarily fashion, although this is a pretty fashionable looking bike, right? It just doesn't bother me that there's cables, and if you do them cleanly, it's not so bad. So I actually prefer this. It makes it so much easier to work on bikes. Before I get started, I want to go over the parts and tools needed. So we're going to start here. I have a dropper lever. This is a Welltooth Remote Pro. And then I have a P&W dropper post. And then the cable. Now the cable can be just a regular shifter cable. Sometimes dropper posts will come with cable, sometimes they won't. If they don't come with a cable, you just need a shifter one that has this end on it, right? And then you need one of these guys, which usually come with the post. In this case, it came with the P&W post, and that'll go on here. I'll show you that later, and that's the piece that engages in here, which will be part of the install. So that's all I need. And then of course I'm going to switch to a different seat than what came on the bike. Kind of interested in this seat. Looks like it's wider, more comfortable than what was on there, so I'll be going with that. And really this is all I need for tools. Now I'll be using these here, so my two Park Y wrenches and then the cable cutters. But I did put this here just to show that if you don't have the fancy tools like this, you can always just get, a set of metric hex keys at the hardware store or whatever. I've had this forever, and it covers a few more sizes that these don't offer if you ever need them. And sometimes these are harder to reach in places, and I have to go to these to get into certain areas and reach. So always handy to have this. And then if you have these, that's just bonus, super easy to work with and use. But yeah, that's all you need. And you want a cable cutters that's designed for bicycle cables, not just anything like these or something, right? These suck for cutting cables on bicycles. This is a Park Tool cable cutter, much better. So one thing I want to point out, and again, every dropper lever is a little different, right? Some of them you can slide them back and forth. Some of them are just locked in and you don't have an option to adjust them. In the case of this wolf tooth one, you have 3 different placement holes to put the bracket, and based on which one you do will determine how far over the lever is on the handlebar. And I don't like my lever to overhang the grip, and I'll show you that here. Okay, so this will be super easy here. Normally you'd have to feed it through the frame, right? But this is just gonna stick right in here and I'll be able to poke it right out the top. Makes it really easy versus having to feed it through the frame, get it to bend up here, and then feed it through. Some frames will have a guide tube that just automatically feeds it. I know Salsa is known for that, but the transition bottle rocket definitely didn't have it, and I had to have the crank set out and reach in there, and as it came through I had to force it through. So just remember, everything's going to be a little different, but in this case it's going to simplify this a lot. One thing we want to do is get the proper length of this going all the way up to the dropper lever. So once I do this part, right, my next step is going to be to go over and put the dropper lever on the handlebar. So in this case, I kind of preliminarily give a guess here by holding this here and kind of seeing where the lever overhangs the grip, because I don't like it to stick way in the grip. I want it to be just at the edge so I can just reach over with my thumb and get it. I'm that way because I like to jump and do things like that, and I don't like stuff intruding in my grip area, so that's why I do it. It's also why I slide my levers way in, so I can just one finger pull the lever. I did a whole video a while ago, I'll put it up in the corner, about cockpit setup, so I'll do that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slide this on there. I'm gonna put the little bolt in there, right? I did not bring a tool over here. We'll see if I can at least get this hand tightened, and I'm going for the far left hole here because when I kind of preliminarily did this, if this is all the way against the brake lever, that's about where I want that, and I can always readjust this if I need to, but this is how I'm going to install it initially. So let me go grab the tool and then tighten this up now. Okay, so I'm going to try to not get in the way of the camera and do this. And we just need to get it close. I don't really crank this super tight because I know I'm likely going to want to readjust it once I sit on the bike and everything. So I'll just get it kind of where I think I want it. Give it a little bit of a snugness so it doesn't move. But the key to this is now I can go figure out how long I want the cable to be, because it's going to wrap around and go down through the seat tube. And that's a little tricky. I'll show you what you have to do, because the dropper, when you first insert it or connect it to the cable, isn't pushed all the way down into the seat tube. So I'll show you that. Alright, so like I said, I'm not going to assemble anything fully yet. What I want to do is figure out how long I need the housing to be, and to do that I'm just going to push it down. I should grab my wrench. To roughly where I think the post will be. It's going to be down here a ways. Let's guess right around here, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'm going to tighten it. Now I'm going to push back up on this cable just to make sure that it's touching the seat post, right? And then I just need to figure out where I want to cut it. Oh, it just came out. But that's fine. You can go back up in there. Yep, there. And then I just need to bring this around, kind of roughly guide it where it will mount on the frame, right? It'll come around and kind of match it up with my other cables. Let's get my arm out of the way and just get a rough idea how long this needs to be. So it's a little tricky to do this part. I think it's probably a little easier if it's internally routed in the frame, because you know where this will be and you don't have to keep it pressed in there. That helped a little bit. Then come here, and then I'm gonna mark this spot, and I'm just literally gonna, because it's so easy to do, pull this out, and I know I want to cut it right around there. So I'll just keep my hand here, go grab my tool and cut it. So I know I want to cut it here, so I'm gonna cut it. Now I can kind of complete the install. So I'm going to take the seat post back out, and then refeed the housing. All right, so sometimes when you have housing, you'll see these like end caps, right? You want to put them on here, and the reason you want to have these is they prevent if it's just this raw end, this can fray and stuff like that. It's not a very solid end to have all that pressure against, and that can cause, like if you have brakes or shifters or anything that uses housing, obviously that would be mechanical brakes, and you don't have those end caps, it will start to get mushy and not feel good and things like that, potentially bind up. So it's always good to make sure you put these end caps on. So that's going to go on the dropper lever side, and then I'm going to feed it through here, and when this comes up I got to put the other end cap on. So here's another important part of the install, is you have this little like barrel thing, and you want to feed that through here. There's the bigger opening and then the smaller opening. You want to feed it bigger opening first through this brake cable, or sorry, shifter cable or dropper post cable, whatever you want to call it, and feed it all the way through, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's all the way in there. And you'll see really close here how that end, which is for like a shifter, goes into this little barrel, and now you have kind of a barrel end, right? And this snaps into the base of the dropper. Before we do that, we can now feed it through the housing until it comes out the other end. Now, because I put that end cap on there, it may or may not want to come out easy. Oh, it did. Came right out. Okay. So if you look at this other end, it came out on this side. So I can pull it all the way through, kind of leave a little space there. I don't need to worry about this side. I can kind of preliminarily just stick it where I know it's going to kind of feed. Maybe I'll use that bottle cage to hold it in place. And then now we can hook this to the dropper post and get it inserted in here, so then we can do the rest over at the dropper lever. So here's the dropper post. It's all ready to go. I've already put some grease on there, so you always want to have grease on there. I want to make sure that little barrel is all the way up there. And then here, let's do this. There's a slot in here. If you see, this is the lever that's going to pull down when I pull the lever and release the post. So I want to put this through that slot. Actually, I go like that. This is kind of tricky, but if you stick the barrel in and get the cable to feed in, you can get the cable to come through that slot, and then there's another slot, and so now it's in there. You can see it, well, get it seated properly. Now it's seated in there nicely. See how it's square there? Nice and seated. Now I want to push it, the housing or the cable into the housing. I can pull it out on this side too if I want. There we go. Now what I'm doing is I'm pulling on this cable on the other side as I feed the dropper in there. I'm going to get it about where I think it should be, and then grab my tool and tighten this up. So I know this should be up a little higher. Tighten this, make it semi-straight. Make sure the housing's pushed all the way up there and the cable's pulled tight. So everything's all snug in there now. So now this is ready to bring around and hook to the lever, but I got to reposition the camera for that. So before I feed the housing, and here's the barrel adjuster, the housing is going to come through there. The cable inside the housing is going to come through the center of that and come out here. And then it's got to wrap around. See this curved part here? It wraps around, and then down underneath is the little bolt. See if I can get that in focus. You see that under there? This guy right here. That is what pinches the cable, and the cable has to go in. Let's see. It has to go right in between where you see the black kind of flat area and that silver pinch bolt. It goes right through there, and that pinch bolt will clamp on the cable to hold it into place. And I got to pull everything tight. I want to point that out for you here, kind of the path that it has to take. And then I'm going to do it from the other camera angle, and you're not going to be able to see this part, me doing this part very easily, but then I will show you what it looks like after. All right, so I'm going to try to show you as best as I can. So I'm going to feed the cable through the center of the barrel adjuster. I'm going to just pull it all the way through it first, get it tight with the housing into the barrel adjuster. And then I'm going to double check and see here, and I'm be like, okay, how does this feel with the other cables, if this was mounted, and just kind of double check the length of it and all of that before I clamp this down. It looks good to me. So now I'm going to go run it through here and feed it through that pinch bolt I just showed you earlier. So I got to loosen that up first. I think it's this size. Yep. And loosen it enough. Try not to get in the camera too much. Okay, so loosen it enough to where this fits in between there. I'm gonna feed it in between there and pull it all the way through. All right, now I want to make sure that the cable is following the curvature there. Inside there's a little lip, so it's between the purple part of the lever and the little lip above there, and it fits into that groove. I'm going to pull it tight as much as I can by hand. I'm going to make sure the lever is pushed all the way up, right? And I'm going to tighten this, and then I'll show you what I do next. Okay, I'm going to get it somewhat snug, right? But now I'm going to push on the lever, and the reason I'm going to do that is everything will seat into place, and then you'll notice it's a little loose. Now I could just take the barrel adjuster and tighten that slack out, but I don't want to do that. I want to go here, loosen this, and pull the cable one more time just to get it as snug as I can, so I'm not using the barrel adjuster as my only means to take up the slack. That comes later. Loosen that a bunch. Pull the cable tighter. Now that I know everything's seated, now tighten this, making sure the lever is all the way pushed out. Now I'm going to crank it even tighter. And any slack at this point, I'm going to correct with the barrel adjuster, but it's pretty tight. There's not much slop in there. So this technically should be actuating the seat post now. And so now we can actually test to make sure everything is working. And before I do that, I just want to make sure this is snug. So you don't want that slipping. All right, now let's go see if it actually works, because right now I should have a working dropper post. All right, the moment of truth. I'm gonna push the lever in. My arm is in the way. Let me see, how can I do this where it's a good angle for you? Because if I do this, you can't even see. Oh yeah, you can. You can see. I'm looking in the camera. So you see my hand here on the post and my other hand up here on the lever. I'm going to push the lever in. I should be able to push the post down. And if I release the lever, it stays down. Now if I push the lever now, the post should go up. Yep. I have a working dropper post. So now I just have to do the finishing touches. Put the seat on, cut off the excess cable, put the little end cap on, all of that. And then I have to snip these zip ties, feed this through, and put new zip ties on, holding both the rear brake and the dropper housing onto the frame. So yeah, let me do that stuff and then we'll see the finished product. Okay, so there's this excess cable here, so I want to cut that off, leave a little extra length there, but I'll just kind of snip it right there, cut that off. And this part's kind of tricky, especially since this tool's kind of big and clunky, but there's this little end cap piece, and I need to put that on the end of this cable, like so. But in order for it to stay there, I have to crush it. All right, let's get my hand in here. And then I have to get this tool. There's a part of this tool right here that I have to get on there somehow without dropping anything. Get it on there. Oh, it fell off. So yeah, I got to get in there and do that, but then I can crush it on there. But with the camera here and everything, I can't do it very easily. So let me just do that now that I showed you kind of what you need to do, and then we'll be done with that part. So there you go. I crushed it onto there so it clamps onto the cable, and that keeps the cable from fraying, and it keeps it nice and clean. The one that I had over here on the Norco fluid fell off, and you can see how the cable frayed. I'll show you that here. So this is what happens if you don't put that piece on, or if you put it on and it falls off, which is what happened here. I originally had one on, it must have fell off at some point, and now this just frays out. It doesn't affect performance any or anything, but it just looks terrible. So when I do the overhaul on the Norco fluid this winter, I'll put a new cable in here and fix this problem. So this is what it looks like once the cable comes through. Housing goes into the barrel adjuster, cable comes out, wraps around there. That's that lip I was talking about, if I can get focus. The lip is up there, and the lever's down here, so it can easily go between those. Focus, and then come through that pinch bolt, that silver bolt you see there, and it just pinches right in there. And that's what holds it all together. Looking at it from underneath, hopefully that helps. So there you have it. Dropper post is installed. So next time I'm out riding this bike, I have no excuses about not sending it off of jumps, because I can just, well, that's a bad angle. I can just lower the dropper. Now I have plenty of clearance to jump and do more technical stuff with this bike, which is why I always love having a dropper post on any bike that I ride that goes off-road anyway. So that is how to install a dropper, at least in this case a Wolftooth Remote Pro lever and a P&W loam post. Ready to shred the OTSO Voytek in my slippers. Let's go. Appreciate your support for my channel. Please like and subscribe. Peace.